My name is Dr. Linzi, and I am a naturopathic doctor right here in Iron River. I specialize in helping people restore their health and revitalize their life. Always a little disclaimer, anything we discuss is for the purpose of general health support, not intended to treat or cure disease, just talking about supporting overall physiology and optimizing health. Always consult with your own primary care before making any health changes, right? And I hope you got a little insight into the air quality thing because it was so bad. I just felt like I had to address it. And he was talking about the weather. Tim was talking about the weather. So I gave a little insight there. So just know that you guys do have a resource. You can, reach out to me at Upper Peninsula Natural Wellness. I have some good supplements on hand to help with this high toxicity. I can get the best air purifiers ordered for you, and I'm able to provide a practitioner discount of like 10 to 15% versus just ordering online. And the Austin Air is the best air purifier. So you just want to really get one of these, especially with how often we're dealing with these ridiculous fires now and just our air quality. You just want to add that to your list of things you want for you and your family. Just really important. But last week we talked a lot about sunlight and how much sunlight is about so much more than just vitamin D and what you can do to get good sun, and about not slathering you or your children with chemical sunscreen before you even walk out the door. We talked all about that. So if you missed that, you can head over to my YouTube channel, Dr. Linzi ND, and give a listen to that. It's really important for you guys, especially because we live in the Midwest. We don't get a lot of great sun. So when we do get it, for you to soak it in and get that sunlight. But today I want to talk about a statistic that, well, first I asked on Facebook, a question like what percentage of the US adult population do you think has a chronic disease? There were a lot of great guesses. I actually hadn't looked at it for a number of years and I was low on my guess. And you guys, the number honestly stops me in my tracks. I just can't believe it, but it's true. And the CDC estimates that about 76% of adult US population, so 3 out of 4 adults in the US have at least one chronic disease, and more than half, about 51%, have 2 or more chronic diseases. Think about that for a minute. That means if you're standing in line at the grocery store and you look around, 3 out of 4 people around you are literally living with a chronic health condition. Heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, autoimmune disease, obesity, depression, Alzheimer's disease, dementia, anything. The CDC defines it as, anything ongoing for more than a year that requires medical attention, that hinders your activities of daily living or your life. And so all of these diagnoses or diseases have different names, right? But they all have something in common. And I also asked on Facebook what people thought they all had in common. And there were some really great answers. And really the underlying theme is inflammation. And yes, a lot of people mentioned nutrition and diet and eating processed foods and insulin resistance and all these wonderful things. And those are all true, absolutely. But then it comes back to because those things are creating inflammation in the body. But I want to point something out to you guys so you guys can understand. Inflammation in and of itself isn't all bad. For example, if you cut your finger, you twist your ankle, you catch a virus, inflammation is actually one of God's incredible healing responses. It's actually how the immune system protects us and repairs us. And that would be acute inflammation. So you have an injury, you're exposed to something happens, you have this acute response, and that is acute inflammation. The body is trying to come in and heal it. And that is actually really helpful. But the key is you have to remove that disturbance in health. And what I mean by disturbance in health is, let's say you keep being exposed to a chemical, you keep breaking the same ankle, you keep eating the same garbage food. That acute inflammation is going to be around long enough where now it's going to start to go into chronic inflammation. You keep doing the same bad things, that chronic inflammation is going to start to go into degeneration. And once you reach degeneration, it's much harder to have a return to health. Now, the body is amazing and a lot of positive things can happen, but the longer you go, you enter into that chronic inflammation and then you continue those habits and it goes into degeneration, it's much harder to have a return to health. But if you catch it and that acute inflammation, you allow the acute inflammation to do its job, then you remove the disturbance in health, you support your body, you have a return to health. That's how ideally it should go. But that problem, like I mentioned, is when the response never shuts off and you keep doing those same negative things, and that acute inflammation is going to turn into chronic inflammation. So instead of your body's instead of being your body's firefighter and coming in and putting out the fire, now you have this slow burning fire that never goes out. And many people are walking around with chronic low grade inflammation and absolutely have no idea. And like I had mentioned, if that chronic low grade inflammation continues, then you're going to start to have degeneration. So, what does inflammation actually feel like? A lot of people usually have an understanding of this. A lot of people think, oh, my knees hurt, my shoulders hurt, my back hurts, my joints ache. And yes, that can actually absolutely be signs of inflammation. But inflammation can also be a little bit sneakier than that. Sometimes it can look like brain fog. Yes, we can have inflammation of our brain, even depression, anxiety. Those can be inflammation of our brain. Having that afternoon energy crash, waking up exhausted, even with enough sleep, frequent headaches, trouble losing weight, intense sugar cravings, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, puffy fingers, or when your rings don't fit on your finger, water retention, those lovely little sock lines you get at the end of the day, stiffness when you first get out of bed, skin issues. Skin issues are a really big one that your body is struggling and trying to get things out of your body because it's coming through your skin. Frequent infections, slow healing, poor sleep. And sometimes, people will tell me, I just don't feel like myself anymore. That can absolutely be the underlying component, be inflammation. And here's what fascinates me, you guys, is that the body whispers long before it screams. So by the time, for example, somebody develops full-blown diabetes, their metabolism has been struggling for years, usually decades, you guys. Like you didn't just like develop diabetes. That was like took 10 years, 20 years of that, of those habits and those things taking place, and your body trying to communicate with you like, hey, we're struggling here. We need to create the conditions for health, or a chronic disease is going to develop. That inflammation is going to get so intense that the body can't overcome it. You're going to develop a disease. Or by the time plaque builds up in the arteries, there have been signs for years beforehand that that has been happening. The body is always communicating, you guys. We just have to learn how to listen. And I want us to know that the body can also give us clues, and so can blood work. Now, I don't like to get too obsessed with blood work because I like to look at the patient or the person in front of me. I do think blood work can be very helpful, and it just we have to use it with the person in front of us and the symptoms and all of those things. But a lot of times people will ask, how do I know I'm inflamed? Well, a lot of times your body will tell you through signs and symptoms and what you're experiencing. But when it comes to blood work, there really is no one perfect test, but there are several clues. One of my favorites is HSCRP, high sensitivity C-reactive protein. It's like an overall inflammatory marker. Now you have to take it with context, because if you have an injury or you have like an acute illness like a virus, it can go sky high and then it's not accurate. But if you're feeling overall like you don't have a sickness and you didn't just recently hurt yourself, that HSCRP can be a helpful marker for overall body inflammation. And the lower the better. I usually functionally like to see it like 1 or below, which is awesome. Another one that I pay attention to is fasting insulin, and this is usually never run either. Many people will have their hemoglobin A1C run, or their fasting blood sugar, which isn't super helpful. But people can have normal blood sugar and their insulin can be elevated for years. And that's telling us that the body is working much harder than it should, and that you are literally developing insulin resistance. And that is so much more helpful, because with hemoglobin A1C, if you are having highs and lows like hyperglycemic, hypoglycemic, and crashing, the average will kind of be maybe okay. But you have serious insulin resistance issues that are developing. So having that fasting insulin value is really helpful. I do like to look at hemoglobin A1C, triglycerides. Notice I didn't say cholesterol. Cholesterol is a business, you guys, but that's a topic for another day. We won't go down that rabbit hole. I've done many episodes on it, but it's probably been about a year or so that I have. So I think we should come back to that. But yeah, cholesterol is not on my list because it's kind of a racket and ridiculous how cholesterol is looked at. But triglycerides are important. HDL cholesterol, which is our healthy, helpful cholesterol that helps repackage things, liver enzymes, white blood cell trends, ferritin, homocysteine, which can look at how our body is methylating and using B vitamins. So no single marker tells the whole story, but I like to look at the entire picture. And I want you guys to know that this is why I created the total health restoration, because people will often ask, well, what supplement should I take that's going to help lower my inflammation? And I just want to chuckle because you guys, I want you to know that there is no magic supplement. If you are super inflamed, you can't just take like one supplement that is just going to magically make your inflammation go away. Now, are there things that can help? Yes, but you have to do it with the whole picture because inflammation is usually not coming from one thing. It's often coming from a combination of poor sleep, stress, processed foods, insulin resistance, lack of movement, poor gut health, nutrient deficiencies, your toxic burden, losing your muscle mass, and sometimes simply never giving the body the conditions it needs to repair itself. The body, you can't just sprinkle a great turmeric on there and think you're gonna be great. You know what I mean? Turmeric is great and it's very anti-inflammatory, but if you're inflamed and all those combination of things are going on in your life, you can't just take a good quality turmeric and like hope for the best. I mean, you can, but it's probably not going to make a big shift. But if you combine that good quality turmeric, and I say good quality because there's some crappy stuff, you guys, from China that's loaded with heavy metals and will cause way more harm than good. You do not want to be taking turmeric from the dollar store. No offense to the dollar store. You don't want to be taking turmeric from Costco or from Amazon. Oh, for the love of Pete, do not order your turmeric from Amazon. Like, you are going to get China crap loaded with harmful ingredients, and it's going to cause more toxic burden to your body. You're better off to just not take it. But if you combined a good quality turmeric is hard to absorb too. So I like to use like a liposomal one, for example. So it's pre-digested. And so when you take it, your body just absorbs it up. It doesn't have to go through your digestion or your liver. And you combine that with lifestyle, could somebody's joint pain improve so they don't need as much pharmaceutical or medication or they feel better? Absolutely. But it's usually a combination of things. And so that's why I created the Total Health Restoration, because it's not just another diet or another quick fix. It's a step-by-step system that helps you restore the conditions your body needs to heal. And so when we address the whole person and the habits that create health, the body often responds in incredible ways. And you can have that return to health even if you've had acute inflammation, chronic inflammation, and often even degeneration. It's hard once you reach the degenerative stage to have a full return to health, but there's always hope for the body improving because the body is truly miraculous. And so I want to share a patient story quick this week. One of the clients recently shared her blood work in the group. And again, I don't get too obsessed about blood work, but I do like to look at it and see how things improve. So when she started her hemoglobin A1C, when she started the Total Health Restoration, her hemoglobin A1C was in the pre-diabetic range. Her triglycerides were elevated. Her cholesterol was high, which in and of itself isn't a huge deal to me. But when you combine high cholesterol with high triglycerides, being pre-diabetic, being overweight, and her hemoglobin A1C was extremely high. And that was the most concerning number for me. Had been at 8 before, and then before she started the program, it was at 9. You guys, that's a huge red flag. Remember I said I like it to be like 1 or below? Plus, she has a serious family history of heart attacks and cardiovascular disease. So that is a ticking time bomb picture. When you put high cholesterol with all those other factors, that is not an ideal situation. She's also going to get her calcium score just to see where she's at, because that can tell us how much plaque is in the body. But after consistently working the program and, losing over like 45 pounds, she has dropped her hemoglobin A1C, her cholesterol has dropped, her triglycerides are in normal range, and her HSCRP, that C-reactive protein, that was a huge red flag at 9, she dropped it to 2.9, which is amazing, you guys. And so while it's not 1 or below yet, which is ideal, that's huge. That's technically lab normal. So according to the lab, it's normal, but I like to see it at 1 or below. But she dropped it from 9 to 2.9. And she told the group, I'm not at optimal yet, but I'm confident that now these even next 90 days are going to help me continue toward my goal. And I just absolutely loved that, because that's what it's all about. It's not about perfection. It's about progress and consistently creating those healthier conditions one day at a time. And she's changing the trajectory for her future health. And we know that environment or that genes, genetics can load the gun. So her gun is loaded with a family history of heart attacks, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, all the metabolic things. Her gun is loaded, but that doesn't have to be her future because environment is what pulls the trigger. So she is creating her environment now. She is changing her environment so that that's not her future. And she is doing that. Things are improving massively for her. And so I just want to share that with you guys because that is super exciting for her, but also that's hopeful for you that even if you have this intense family history, even if it seems a little hopeless because your numbers are so bad, the body is amazing when you give it the conditions to heal. So your challenge for this week, so I am going to be having a free handout. So for the first 60 minutes of your morning can influence your inflammation level for the rest of the day. And I think that's so key. I always like to give you guys something that you can actually do. You can actually start implementing. So what I want you to, so like when we look at the first 60 minutes of our morning, like what do you do those first 60 minutes? Are you getting sunlight? Are you immediately spiking your blood sugar? Are you moving? Are you hydrating? Are you breathing? This is all sending signals to your body for the rest of the day. So what I want you to do is I want you to head over to Facebook, find me at Linzi Say Larson. So it's Linzi, and then Say, S as in Sam, Aigh Larson, Larsen. Friend request me, follow me, whatever, and then find my post from today about Wellness Wednesday on telephone time, and you can comment on there that you'd like the handout. And my team member and I are going to be working on a free handout that literally is how the first 60 minutes of your morning set your inflammation level for the entire day and give you a step-by-step for what you can do in your first 60 minutes to help have lower inflammation for the rest of the day. And this can be progress for you. But I want you to take some action. Oftentimes I'm always giving away free information, which I love to do, but I want to get some engagement with people. So I want you to head over to Facebook, follow me, friend request me, ask for the handout, put a little effort in, and we'll send it over to you so that you can have that. Because I want you guys to understand that sometimes we just need simple, practical steps, and you can start using this immediately, and this will help your inflammation status, no matter where you're at. It's something positive you can start doing, because I want you guys to understand that the goal isn't just to live longer, it's to feel better. It's to have more energy. It's to think more clearly. It's to reduce your disease risk so you're not just part of the standard American way and 3 out of 4 and part of that statistic. That's so depressing, you guys. We got to take some ownership. We got to take some control and start taking the action to make a difference for our health, for our future generation health, to set the example for our kids, for our grandkids, to show them, because you guys, they're in a much more toxic world than my generation was. Definitely much more toxic than my parents and then grandparents. I mean, a lot of times people will say, well, I kind of live the standard American way and I'm fine. No, what the kiddos are being exposed to now compared to what past generations, it's wild, you guys. I mean, people are being born like then they test the umbilical cord and there's hundreds of chemicals before the baby even comes out of the womb. So it's like we're kind of at a disadvantage. And I don't say that to be like negative or to stress us out, but to encourage us to take responsibility, to take ownership. We can't just go around anymore just hoping for the best. It's a wild, toxic world out there, and we have to take our health into our own hands. We have to be our own health advocate, and we have to take actions every day to set ourselves up for success, or we absolutely 100% will be part of the statistic, part of the 3 of 4 with a chronic disease, part of the 50% that have 2 or more chronic diseases, loaded with medications, feeling like crap. And then when you get to that point in your life where you can actually retire, or you actually have some savings where you can enjoy your life, you're going to be like sick and tired because you're just all loaded up with toxins and inflammation. And so just start doing the things now, even if it's just one thing, because it can feel overwhelming. Start somewhere, because I want you guys to know when you start creating those conditions for health, your body can do what it was beautifully designed to do, which is to heal, which is to help you feel good. And so I just want to thank you guys for tuning in and always listening. And I really hope that today's episode encouraged you to explore new ways of healing and helped remind you that healing is possible. And as always, every week, I'm going to encourage you guys to work on creating those conditions for health and make them a priority for your life. And if you forgot, creating the conditions for health, those are the baseline determinants. the food you're putting in your body, the water you're drinking, the air you're breathing, which this week is going to be a little challenging. So save up for a good air purifier, or do the best you can. Getting that sunlight, getting that movement, loving relationships, the people you surround yourself with, community. These are all core conditions for health that help us feel better, have more vitality, and those are things that are in your control that you can do. And so I want you to remember that your body is also always communicating with you. So if you are feeling any of those things like I mentioned when it comes to inflammation, that can be little signs of inflammation, listen to your body. Give it some support. And I want to encourage you to trust your body, to trust nature, and to trust the incredible wisdom that God has built into your design. And if you are ready to have somebody in your corner, or you're ready to do something like the Total Health Restoration, you can always call or text the office. That's 906-829-0500. You can email info@drlinzi.com. That's info, drlinzi.com. You're also welcome to visit my website, drlinzi.com, or check me out on Facebook, Lindsay Say Larson, and you can always message there and we'll get back to you. Does that sound like a plan?
Well, I'll tell you, it blew me away again, Doctor.
Always learning?
Oh yeah, I'm listening quietly over here. Yeah, one thing you brought to mind just if you look at pictures of the people that grew up in the 60s and 70s, like on the beach,
Oh my God.
there ain't nobody fat down there.
No, I mean,
but it's
people are lean and healthy.
Yes.
And that makes me sad because it's not ever to shame anybody. Like, it's never to bring that point out to make somebody feel bad about themselves, or or that word fat shaming or anything like that. It's to bring awareness to, like, you guys, in the past 20 years, like 20, 30 years, 50 years, like, it just keeps getting worse. The processed foods, that, like, just so much. And so the question is, like, not to blame ourselves or to shame ourselves, to be like, okay, we have to start asking better questions. What is different? They all didn't just, like, quote, starve themselves and not eat. No, they had real food. They moved their body. They weren't sucked into technology. Technology is important, but it's getting out of hand. People aren't moving. People aren't being active. People aren't eating real whole foods. The body can only do so much. And then when the body is in this survival mode, it starts storing fat. And that's why you see such this difference in body type when you look at the 60s of people on the beach, and then 2025, 2026 people on the beach. It's 76% have a chronic disease. So, I mean, and 51% have 2 or more chronic disease, and you can see it on the beach or where you go or when you go out and about. And again, not to judge, but to ask better questions about, okay, what is going on here? And what can I do for myself and for my family? Because, like, do you want your kids to grow up like that? And I mean, now I didn't even bring this topic up because it's really a topic for another day and a whole nother topic, but the chronic disease in children. There are statistics in that. I mean, chronic disease in children used to be, like, unheard of. That was like a total rare thing. Now it is becoming the norm. And so maybe that next week would be a good one too. But I just get really a little bit riled up about that one, and I get a little sassy because I get mad. Yeah. Because as an adult, we can make our choices. Those poor children often can't make their choices, and they're relying on the adult to do it. And to see children that are obese and children with chronic disease, you weren't just dealt bad genetics. That is absolutely environment. 100%. Could you be more prone to something? Yes. But no, a child doesn't just develop chronic disease. There is reasons, and we need to ask better questions, and we need to start taking ownership and responsibility for what's going on. And you don't have to, but then you're just going to become part of the statistic, part of the standard American way, the standard American food, the standard American lifestyle, the standard American medical model, and you'll fall right in line. And by the time you're 50 or 60, you'll be on 5 to 15 pharmaceuticals, and you'll still feel like garbage, and it'll just keep getting added to. That's the trajectory. Yep. So if that's something that doesn't sound appealing to you, doesn't sound like something you want, then no one's coming to save you.
Right.
Like, you have to take the ownership, you have to do the things. And yes, sometimes it can be overwhelming, but then we need to get people in our corner. So even me as a naturopathic doctor, I can get overwhelmed even with my own health. So I have people in my corner that I go see, so because I help people, but sometimes when it comes to our own self, we need, like, we can't see the forest through the trees, and we need someone else's eyes looking in to help us because we're a little biased when it comes to ourselves, or we can't always see, or we maybe don't take ownership, or we don't realize, or oh, it's fine, it's fine. And then we go to someone else with a fresh set of eyes, and they're like, well, about this and about that stress you're not dealing with, it's not just fine. And I'm like, oh, maybe you're right. You know what I mean? So I have to do it too, you guys. Like,
Feedback.
oh yeah, that feedback is so helpful. It's so helpful. But yeah, so I just hope that was encouraging for you guys. But I think one of the biggest things is we have to ask better questions, and we have to start digging, and we have to start making choices and creating habits that are going to decrease our inflammation, that are going to push us forward in the path of what we actually want to see to achieve. I feel like when I mentioned the standard American way, most people don't want that as their future in 5, 10, 15 years. But then you have to do something about it, or it's just going to fall in line, and that's just going to be your future.
Yep.
Make sense?
Yes, Dr. Lindsay, I better let you go because